Hi, everybody. We are joined today by my two colleagues, Luiz and Eduardo. I will let them introduce yourselves to you, but thank you for joining us. My name is Yesenia Polovitch, and I am a BDR here with CI&T. And like I said, I want to introduce my two colleagues in the HLS space, and they can go ahead and kick off their intros for you.
Thanks for having us, Yesenia. I'm Luiz, Cieslak, head of our healthcare and life sciences practice for CI&T. Been with the company for 22 years and working with pharma and companies and hospital systems over the last 16, 17 years. So a lot of passion for the space, a lot of excitement to be talking about our data topic today.
Yeah, my name is Eduardo Ruela. I'm a head of data engineering with CI&T, responsible for North America. I've been with the company for the past 12 years. I've been working in many different industries, including healthcare, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, gentlemen. So, Luiz, I think you said it already. We're here today for data interoperability and data integration, right? And why it's important. So, who has the pleasure of giving us some background on data integration?
Yeah, I can take from there.
Perfect.
Right, let's talk why data integration is important, right? So data integration is a process where we collect information from many different sources and we centralize that in a unified data set. And when we talk about multiple sources, we talk about systems like HR systems, we talk about image systems, even patient wearables, right? Today, there's so much information that's collecting wearables and all that. And having a single source of truth allow physicians and even administrative people inside of the hospital systems to have a completely holistic vision of the patient information. And this allows multiple points to improve patient care and also optimization of internal process and all that. So that's why data integration is so important. But let's explore a bit more about why it's important, right? I talk a bit what is it. So sure. As I mentioned, the first thing is having a data integrated in a single source of place, a single source of truth of data inside of the organization, allow to better clinical decisions. So we can diagnose more accurately and quickly. Another point that's improved is operation efficiency. The process of collecting information across multiple systems can be very laborious when people need to open multiple systems, go through multiple screens. So have a centralized place when we have the data integrated to a unique data set allows to a much faster and optimized process inside of organization. Another important point is right now we talk a lot about innovation, about using AI, ML, and do more an AI-driven insight inside of patient care, inside of patient data, sorry. So, and to be able to do that, the foundation for doing that is have the data centralized in a unique place, so AI can have access to that information. So the integration is a key piece to enable this type of features inside of organization. So if you want to implement advanced analytics, or if you want to use machine learning on top of your organization to provide better patient care and better insight, or even to optimize internal processes, you're going to need to have data integrated in your environment. The last piece is more for compliance and security. When you have the data spread across multiple systems, now you need to secure the data across all these different systems. When you have the data centralized in a single place, you have one place where you need to ensure security, when you need to ensure that you monitor and comply with all the controls required by the regulations like HIPAA or GDPR. So this also makes it easier to implement. That said, let me give you a little bit of one example that we have in that area, right? So we have been working with one hospital system in the United States. I cannot, for compliance issue, I cannot mention the name, but it's one big hospital system. They have multiple campuses across different cities in the United States, and we partner with them. And one of the problems they bring to us and ask our help to us to solve is their billing chain. Let's put it right. The billing know the process was very wasn't very effective, and they were looking ways to optimize that process. And when we sit down and understand the steps and how that process works inside of their chain, we saw a huge potential, right? And what was the process? The process, they have menus, many systems they need to go, many steps. They need to open one system, go to another system, open a screen, navigate through 7, 8 different screens inside of that system. They need to do all that to collect the necessary information so they can generate the invoice correctly at the end. So with data integration, what we were able to do is collect data from all these multiple systems, centralize that in a single data source, and then build a custom report on top of that that provides a single pane for all information they need to generate the invoice. So now the billing team basically open that report, they have all the information they need over there to generate the invoice, and then go to the financial system and able to generate the invoice with all the details for that specific patient treatment. So this speed up the process a lot. Also reduce a lot of manual mistakes because the process was so labor, so there were so many manual steps on the process. There was a lot of manual mistakes made on that process, what impact patient experience at the end because the invoice was generated incorrectly, that it had problems with insurance, and all that was impacting patient experience inside of the hospital system. And with that improvement, they speed up the process, the number of errors reduced a lot, and overall patient experience improved inside of organization. So it's one example that we implemented, focus more in data integration and how that it helped one of our clients here in the United States.
That was a lot of great info. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So what I got from that was data integration is important because essentially it'll tie everything together. That's how, within the hospital, they communicate with each other. That's how the doctors can find out what's going on with patients. That is how the patients have a better experience also. So I guess it all kind of ties together, right?
That's correct, exactly.
Great. Thank you so much. And I think, Luiz, you're going to talk about data interoperability. And I'll pivot a question to you first before we get into what data interoperability even means. But according to HIMSS, they had a LinkedIn poll, and they revealed that 57% of physicians identify interoperability as their primary obstacle in maximizing health IT. So tell us what that entails and, how we can make sense of that.
So Eduardo talked a lot about the data integration, right? Bringing data together. So think of data as like the language. Fundamentally, all of the elements of the language that we all speak comes from some of the same roots, right? You have the Latin-based languages, but when you talk about like the Western-based languages, characters are mostly the same. You have very common understanding. Similar with data. We're talking about data, about health data in particular. So you have the ability to say, okay, here's the patient name, here's some of the diagnosis. It's when you start getting to the minutiae of it that you start getting issues, and therefore the survey coming out from HIMSS talking about the obstacles that healthcare providers face. What may be patient name on one place can be name on a different one, or just patient. And then as you get more complex, you start getting into the specific vocabulary for each organization. That then starts getting even more complex. Like some hospital systems will treat blood pressure in one format. They record, other places will record in a different one. Like there are standards, but they're not fully or universally adopted. So that the data interoperability comes into play to make sure that we can exchange data and we're going to be making sense of data. As the simplest of its form, or the simplest challenges, like, can be weight. Like it's as simple as, hey, one place records in metric systems. Yes, it's kilograms and grams, and the other location is going to be measured in imperial metrics, pounds. And when you're dosing anything, you're making, or many medications, for example, are based out of your patient weight, height, because it's based on the absorption, or your ability to absorb that medication. So if you're coming in and your data says you're 100 kilograms, if that gets directly translated to now you're 100 pounds, or the other way around, right? You're 100 pounds and then all of a sudden you're 100 kilos. Your dosing medication can be fatal. So interoperability comes into how do we make sure that things are getting exchanged correctly and we're being able to converse across the organizations. So
that's things I never thought of. So if I went to a hospital and they gave me a dose they would have to give me like a tranquilizer, pretty much. It'd be like horse dose. It'd be something completely different. But you always think about, needing data and integrating it. But then I never really thought about can you actually use it? Is it, feasible for us to be able to break it down? Or, is there a way for us to be able to apply it to what we need it for here? And I'm sure that must be really challenging in that space also, especially like I said, within healthcare. Like if you If you don't do it correctly, then that you don't really get one chance sometimes. That's pretty much it.
You're very correct. It's like there are mistakes. It's like I heard this one time from a hospital administrator. It's like it's the one healthcare in general. It's one industry where the only thing that matter, the only really innegotiable aspect of things is accuracy. You need to be accurate. You can't really be like you making a mistake can really like to the literal sense of it can kill somebody. So you can't let it to things up to chance. It needs to be taken care of. So you need to make sure that things talk to each other in the most accurate and understandable way. And you see this with the analogy of the language to me is in terms of data interoperability is phenomenal because you take this with English. We will have expressions in American English that have different meanings in British English and completely different completely different meanings in Australian English. Like I'm Brazilian, right? We speak Portuguese. We have like there are some examples compared to Portuguese or European Portuguese versus Brazilian Portuguese, where exact same phrases, exact same words, sentence, whole completely different meaning and understanding. Like same words, same lexicon, but completely
different. Yeah, I'm in Miami, and it's funny because you can ask. We have whole different bunch of demographics here, but if you ask somebody from Peru to say cake, they're going to say it differently than somebody from Cuba. And so we always make that joke that the Spanish isn't the same. I'm assuming that's also like in this inference that data language, just because it's one way, it's not necessarily the same as it is in another part of the world, if anything, or even in a different hospital organization, right?
Yep. And everybody, just like you said, like the Peruvians, the Cubans, they will have their own nuances, their own slangs, different hospital systems. They create their worlds on themselves. So how do you treat or how do you call certain incidents? Is it a heart attack? Is it a ischemic myocardic event? Like how do you call it? How do you then understand if you're not in that? It's like, and then obviously we all abbreviate things. So it's what does
the
that
acronyms will lose us all.
So that's part of the challenges with data interoperability and the importance of it to be able to coordinate data from different sources, put in the hands of the physician, but in a meaningful way. You can't. It's like going back to the weight, right? I'm a big guy. It's like all of a sudden the doctor sees like 120. I was like, I need to get you immediately into the hospital right now because you've been a 250 pounds person for the last many years. All of a sudden, it's like, what happened to you? Something is very wrong.
Yeah. So data interoperability seems very complex. Thank God we're here for that, right? Eduardo, why don't you tell us? I mean, I hope that data integration doesn't have as many complexities, but give us some background maybe on what some of the challenges are in trying to get the data integrated, or like what are people running into that might be a hindrance in the space.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, right, the main challenge of data integration is their data is in so many different systems, and a lot of the systems talking so many different standards and things like that. So integrate data become a big challenge because you need to transform the data and put that data unified in a central place, and need to make insights inside of that data. And if you go more into interoperability, when you talk about multiple organizations, like Cieslak was talking, is even bigger problem, right? If you try to get all the data unified for a patient information, right? But they have multiple information across different systems because they have different providers. Each provider has their own system, and you try to get all that data together. So the challenge is even bigger when you try to do something like that. So that's what we are seeing over there.
Yeah, I've been to a hospital that had sent me to one of their own little doctor's offices, like an offset of them, and they didn't. I had to take like a USB and like an actual like CD disc with me, in order for them to be able to reference my CAT scans because they didn't have it there, and it kind of blew my mind because I thought that the hospitals would communicate with each other, but I guess they don't. So are you seeing that that's still a challenge, in 2025? Are we still kind of having the disconnect between where the data is coming from and how they're getting it across? Or are we,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is and there is multiple reasons, right? For example, there is sort of medical hospitals and things like that. Still a lot of legacy systems. So there are still a lot of applications that are developed internally, and they don't implement the standards that required across the organization. As Cieslak said, a lot of these systems and standards come with some base structure, but there is a lot of mapping that's for the specific needs of that organization. So when you try to integrate two systems, a lot of times, okay, they're still talking the same language, right? They still implement HL7 standards, but the problem is each mapping is different for all the different organizations. So now you need to create like a facade layer, like an integration layer between both to translate the information from one organization to the other. And now we're talking about 100 organizations, right? We're talking about labs or systems, right? So if you want to integrate for one lab company, so you need to get information that is the standard, but there is uniqueness on that side too. So you need to translate and be able to ingest that inside of your own system. So there's a lot of challenges on that field.
And speaking of challenges and everything, hopefully there's a sunny side to all of this, right? Like, give me some good news, Luis. Like, give me give me some good news. So I know what data interoperability and data integration, obviously, we're talking about what it can lead to, the challenges and everything. But what have you seen are some of the wins in this space, or that CI&T has been, really comfortable with and really excelled at?
So I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming on the opposite direction.
I hope so.
There's a factor, right? The jealousy, and I mean that in a good way. People want to see or to experience or to be exposed to similar things that they're seeing in other industries. In this case, what we're seeing now is generative AI. I know when the focus is not there, we're not going to go down that path because everybody talks about Gen AI. It's not there, but Gen AI is only able and capable and able to unlocks really a lot of potential in the medical field if there is enough data. If there is data that is curated, that's understand the same way, that's normalized, that you can use to train the models for hospitals so that they can help the physicians, they can help the administrative processes, billing, like Eduardo was mentioning, like aggregate all of that data. All of that is only possible to get to that next stage and achieve those productivity gains if you have all of that data. So it's almost a pulled manner. Right? People want to have that. People want the excitement because it's healthcare, because of all of the complexities. It's not just let me go on any of the open any of the open models out there or any of the opportunities. I can go open a browser window and type something and put my patient information there. That's a huge HIPAA violation in the US, right? I can't. It's not. It's like even as a patient, I shouldn't be doing that. So in order to be able to do that, there is a lot of demand now coming. It's what we are doing a lot of work with different hospital systems, different clients, to be able to optimize that data ingestion, to understand the different sources. And we're going through many hospital systems, like Eduardo was saying, different sources, different hospitals, different systems, different legacy. Like a lot of them grew by acquisition. So everybody came with a different background, different way of running. They're not all onto the same platform, or sometimes they're on the same solution, but different instances. So they speak different dialects of the same data. But now they're trying to get everything under the same umbrella, under the same roof. So we're working, like Ruela mentioned, a hospital system here, one hospital system here in the US where we're aggregating billing data. We have another client where we're going through their revenue cycle, so looking across all of the procedures, claims, so they can interact with insurance payers, submitting the billing in accordance to the patient's insurance information. So being more effective in how they submit the billing, reducing the percentage of adjudicated claims that they receive, so their revenue cycle becomes shorter. They have to front load the cash or to float that money to keep operations running for a shorter period of time, or even smaller amounts of cash as well. So at the end, that's then money that can go back into the hospital systems to improve your care as a patient. Other solutions, other alternatives. So it's not just a digital front door, like you mentioned before, but also like how do we get a unified experience? How do we actually are able to, you go within the same hospital system and you don't have to carry around a CD anymore.
USC and everything too. That sounds like a dream. So how do we get there? Like, what is there a holdup from like different hospitals? Is there like any sort of delay, or do people need to consider like what they're currently using? So I know you mentioned legacy apps also. So in order for us to kind of, honestly, at this point, I would just say, just call CI&T instead, let them handle it all for you. But I guess, is there a way to make sense of it all if we don't, involve CI&T or a partner, if anything?
I think the first things first, right? Talking about data moving, anything, it's always a massive undertaking. Everybody has that initial reaction that's like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. This is too much. This is going to be 5 years in the making, and it's not going to work because everything's going to change, and we're that analysis process. So because I already know that this is going to happen, I'm not going to even get going. So that would be the very first suggestion and advice. It's like, we don't need to do it all. It's the first things first. It's, let's figure out let's try to understand and learn what we don't know. Right now, we know that we don't know a lot of things. Let's start diving in. Let's get that understanding, that catalog, that governance. What is that what do I have? What is the data? Where are they sitting? What are the systems? What dialect are they speaking? Can I pull data out of it and put into a common platform so that I can make sense? Can I enrich the data and send it back to like a master data repository for that hospital system? So the first thing is understanding, is that assessment. It's not, it doesn't get you committed to jumping into the darkness of a pool to figure out if there is water or not. It's not even if the water is warm. It's if there is water.
Or not, yeah. Not even how cold or how warm it might be.
Is there water? This is just like, all right, we'll put we dip our toes there. It's like, all right, there's water. I can't really tell if it's really cold or warm yet because I just like tapped on it. I hear the noise. But the data maturity model that we've put together from CI&T helps us understand what you have, what is your governance around the data, what is the interoperability of that, and then start slicing the problem into some areas. Like again, hospital systems are, and healthcare in general, right? It's very risk averse. So in order for us to get something going on the front end, the patient, the diagnostic, there's a lot of involvement, a lot of validation, a lot of testing that creates a different barrier. But like Ruela said, let's work on the back end of the house. Let's work on back office systems, optimizing the billing, like improving your revenue cycle, improving your operational costs, improving the ability to interact with your patient and sort out things, and reducing your call center costs for scheduling, for appointments, or for questions. Those are things that are lower risk. You're not betting the whole operations. You're not putting your whole operations at risk. And you start gaining momentum. You start seeing the advantage. You start collecting results that start building up on the success of each other to continue doing it.
Yeah, I'm already getting anxiety going through this with you, and we're just doing it together. It's not even, I'm not even a hospital person, clearly, but that's already, so much to consider. Is that something that you two could help our customers with? Help other, if they want to see what their organization's data maturity looks like? Is that something that CI&T would evaluate for them?
Yeah, absolutely. We had many engagements where we started working with the clients as part of an assessment, right? So we help to get down, help them to assess the current scenario, help them to, as Cieslak mentioned, we have a data maturity model. We can help to map how is the data field inside the organization, help us to understand also which problems is the most critical that we can help to solve first, right? Because as Cieslak said, let's try to break the problem in small pieces and try to tackle piece by piece instead of, let's not try to bring all the data to one central place, and after all the data is there, we start to do so much data, we're gonna get lost in the middle. So let's
Right.
focus on the final, right? What's the final data product you need to deliver, right? So what's the problem we're trying to solve? And let's build on top of that, so we have necessary data to support, to answer that problem, right? To fix that problem. So that's the way, and absolutely, we can help to map that, understand the problem, propose a solution, and also implement, right? How we get the data from the source up to the final data product that's going to be delivered for the business.
So smaller, digestible amounts of data, pretty much start with that first, and then we can go from there, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And bringing that experience, that's I think where we can make a difference. And given our long history in healthcare and life sciences, is understanding the landscape of the each different implementation of the EHRs, how they end up being customized at the endpoint. So although maybe you're talking about the same EHR, like you're talking about Epic, okay, great. But every single hospital implemented Epic differently. So the data is not exactly the same. Standards are there. You can pull the data. They respect the standards. Eduardo mentioned before, HL7, HFire. Those are things that are there. They all respect. They all follow those. What's the guideline? But then again, back to the dialect that we were talking before. It's like, well, I do it. I'm still within the constraint, but I do it slightly different than you. Then it's different. So our experience in doing this with hostels and having that clarity around the different challenges that each implementation poses helps us being able to extract the data and be able to then normalize, make that interoperability that we talked about really interoperable. It's not just we're not just pulling data together, but they really they do work together.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention also, CI&T is not like how do you refer to it? We're the best kept secret.
We're the best kept secret in the industry.
And we've been doing this now for almost 30 years, right?
Oh, we're coming up on 30 years anniversary, May 1st.
Wow, May 1st, that's right around the corner. So we know what we're talking about then, right? Like we're not the new kids. Like we've been here. We've been around this block before, right?
We've been around it's not our first rodeo, not our first to come around the block. We have a lot of people, like some of the faces that people see, but there's an army of 7,000 of us behind to support clients across the spectrum of all sizes, complexities, geographies. So it's very, very much of you're not dependent on Eduardo or I to do anything. It's the army of people that come in with the experience and have been exposed to different realities across different hospital systems, different geographies, and all of the brains coming together to help drive change.
I wanted Eduardo to help me solely, just, he can help me with my data instead. Anything else that we should mention or that we might want to remember? I know we're kind of coming close to time, but there's been a lot of great information. I guess to wrap up, give me like some quick highlights of things that people should remember, or should they just contact us directly if they want to get in touch and find out more, so we can, run a data maturity model test with them and see where they're at in their transition or their journey. Closing thoughts.
Eduardo.
Yeah, I think my closing thought here is, as we mentioned, right? Try to break the problem in small pieces, not try to resolve everything at once. I think that's one of the lessons we saw with clients, right? When we try to do something too big, we get lost in the middle and not able to get to the end, right? So let's try to break the problem in small pieces and work piece by piece, right? Generate value as quick as possible. That's gonna give more momentum for the initiative. And think data as a product, right? Not think data as something that's not that critical. Think that as an entire product and it's connected to the value of the organization. And understand innovation will require data. Data is the foundation for any innovation you want to do. So if you want to do advanced analytics, if you want to do machine learning, if you want to use the trained by Gen AI tools and all that, data will be the foundation piece for being able to do that inside of organization. So you need to think about how you manage data. You have to implement process, have governance around that, so you're able to succeed. And if you need help, we are here. So as Cieslak said, we are 7,000 people spread around the globe. We are working with many different hospital systems in the US and globally as well. So we have a lot of people and in other places as well, other geographic. So we are here to help. So if you need anything, just don't hesitate to contact us, right?
Yeah, and that's a great point too. Like everybody nowadays is on the AI boat and wants to go with the AI train and everything. But if your data isn't integrated, then you really can't even take advantage of all the cool features that come with AI and these next things. So that was great. Thank you, Eduardo. That was awesome. And Luis, do you have any closing thoughts for us or some final notes for people to consider?
I'd say my closing thoughts, building on a bit of what Eduardo said, is to start small, right? And the key thing, it's data is spread everywhere. It's across the organizations. It's outside of the organizations. Data right now is, I've heard this expression not that long ago. It's like data is the new gold. It's what really moves things, and in order for us to be successful and not fall into the trap of it's my data, like the power, the true power of data is really coming from the ability to enrich the data pieces that we have. So data, the elements of data, really the successful engagements with data really come from the ability to look across the organization. Like we have, it's like sometimes you have different silos, you have IT, you have a data group, or you have like the EHR group that owns it. So that the true success of the most successful organizations that I've seen and that we've worked with is when we are able to come together as one organization to make the most out of that data that they have. So it's not my data, it's not your data, it's not Eduardo's data, it's our data as a system. So how do we get to that point? And then you start thinking even further, right? It's we want hospital systems want that loyalty from the patient. Not that I want people to continue to get sick, but I want you, if you do need me, if you do need me as a hospital system, right? I want you to come back to my practice, to the doctors on my in my network, not going somewhere else. And I'll do that. I'll get to that point, and I'll gain your loyalty by making it easier for you and really truly understanding you. So what can I make it easier? Can I actually, like I'm using the Apple Watch, I have a smart ring that captures data. Like my doctors don't look at that, and that actually tells me a lot more. Like the other day, I actually felt, I woke up, wasn't feeling well. My ring was telling me, it's like, hey, everything okay? Your signs are all off. And lo and behold, I was actually not feeling great. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna call it a day early. Let me go home. I'll go rest. And I woke up fine the next day. Like,
that's so powerful.
Bring it to the doctor. It's like my doctor has no idea. And by the time I go back to see her, my primary care, I won't remember that I wasn't feeling well. So
better than having to bring your floppy disk with you, though, but at least, but that's your data then, though. That's your data where you can gather that, and that's how you're going to use it. And if you keep it to yourself, then you're not integrating within the system on your record, and it just keeps on going. And it's like a snowball effect almost at that point too. Like you said, if the hospitals can keep data themselves, but it's more powerful when you're able to use it with others. Mm-hmm. And in your example, your data from your ring was clearly accurate, but no one really took it into consideration because you didn't share it with anybody.
Yeah.
So hopefully
my doctor could have, like, if she was aware, just a quick check-in, text, an email. It's like, hey, you okay? Do you need anything? It's like, no, it's like, got nothing, because it's not integrated. Nobody's looking at it. But think of it like I would immediately think of anything. It's like, oh, let me go to my primary, as opposed to trying to figure out what my specialist is, because my primary really knows me. She understands what's going on, what my history is as a patient. But it's a missed opportunity.
I'm sure there's so many missed opportunities too in this space also, unfortunately, because we haven't figured that out just yet. But like you said, CI&T is here to help with that. And we are able to kind of review where they're at in their data maturity as well, right?
Yes, that's the beginning. We've got to take the first step on the journey.
Right? Small steps, right? Small
steps.
Easy to digest steps. And that will be the first one. Well, thank you both so much. I really appreciate this. This has been great. And if anybody at home has questions, and hopefully they'll reach out to us, right? Luiz, Eduardo, thank you.
Thank you.
Much.